Just a lot of unknowns. I have a lot of moving parts in my life right now and a lot of questions that are not answered just yet. All exciting stuff, but naturally I think that just comes with a lot of stress in general. If my mind is all over the place, the first thing I default to is simplifying things. So when everything feels out of my control, I focus on what I can control. I also focus on what's right in front of me, so the present. A lot of times if I'm feeling stressed, it's because of future answers that I don't have yet, and it can cause a lot of overthinking. So my default is be in the moment, control what's in front of you, make good decisions in real time. And then the second part to that is just simply what's made for me will be mine, and if it's not meant for me, I'm not gonna have it. So nothing bad comes from God, only good things. It eases my mind to remind myself that there's a lot of outside distractions, a lot of evil, a lot of just people trying to take your attention away from what you need to do. Simplifying it really helps if you look at it like that. Journaling, that's a big one. I have a really hard time slowing down, especially when I'm given opportunity for breaks. It's almost like I feel like I should be doing more during that time, and it doesn't feel good. So whenever I have some spare time, I will sit down and write down everything that I'm feeling, just word vomit it onto paper, because half the time my mental battle is just recognizing what I have going on, and it's an easy way to do that. I mean, praying is always huge. I think I've talked about this in my other videos, but I will pray right before I go to sleep, try to get myself to wind down. I will also pray before meals, just really any kind of free pockets. And my goal is to pray so much that when something triggers me, like anxiety or fear or sadness, my default becomes praying, and done a pretty good job of it over the last couple of years, but we can always improve. I actually just went through about a week or two where I felt like I didn't do my due diligence in praying, and I can feel the effect of that personally for me because I know what it does. I like my Band-Aid, by the way, that made an appearance. But those are a couple things that I do. I would also say filling up my mental free time with good energy. So it could be I have a spare 30 minutes, let me go for a walk and listen to a podcast that I feel like is going to make me feel better. Or I'm in the shower and I'm listening to music. I've said this before, but listening to music or just audio in general that fuels you instead of things like partying and drugs and alcohol that, you know, I'm sure a lot of us enjoy, but it's just not going to be conducive to your mindset or making you feel better. So really honing in on those three areas. Journaling, so I can actually tangibly see what I'm going through. 2 is praying, so I can be in touch with my emotions and just be more logical in general. And 3, choosing myself. Being able to make the time to actually have free mental space is important too. If you don't have any of that, you're just going to drown in your thoughts over and over again as you continue the cycle. That's a big one. I feel like that is something myself and EJ reflect on a lot, especially because we're both so driven. And if you're watching this, I'm sure you're driven as well. Have a few ideas of things that you want to do with your life. So when you have all that and you're also trying to work on the present, it can be tough to keep your priorities straight. I would say there's a couple things that we do and I do to help us stay on track. First thing is we have a whiteboard. It is our vision board. Now it's not as pretty as all y'all's that have the newspaper clippings and magazines, but it sure does outline where we want to be, and it's in a pillar. So there's literally just 3 or 4 levels of where we see progression happening in our professional and personal lives, as well as each other. So we have goals of running a business, growing a YouTube channel, growing an audience, a brand. We have goals for ourselves, like when do we want to get married and have kids and have a family? When do we want to go travel? Simplifying it down in a way where you actually can see it in front of you every day is quite refreshing. I haven't had a board before. I honestly kind of thought they were ridiculous, but now that I see it, it's actually in front of my desk. So when I'm feeling even overwhelmed during my day, I can look at it and bring myself back to the moment and be like, okay, everything I'm doing here is for that. And I have to trust that I have a good acumen and a good head on my shoulders to make decisions in real time that will inch the needle forward towards the goals on that board. Say that 10 times in a row. I think something that we've done over the last couple of years is honed in on our values, really core foundations of who we are as people and how we want to represent ourselves in whatever manner. It could be a social space, it could be a workspace or whatever. And I think just really being able to sit down if you haven't done it yet and identify what is the most important to you. Is it family? Is it connection, relationships, business? What are your core values that you want to show up as the rest of your life? And then start breaking that down into smaller bite-sized goals. Because the reality is we all have these big visions of how we see our life. I know I certainly do, and it can be very intimidating. Intimidating because you're almost afraid of, how am I gonna get there? There's way more distractions than there are things that are gonna keep you in line. So when you have those core values and you're feeling overwhelmed, you can take it back to that list and be like, okay, is how I'm acting right now reflecting the values that I have that I know are important for long term? Or is it a distraction? There's gonna be many days where you have to catch yourself and, bring yourself back a little bit to reality, but as long as you have resources and can continue practicing it day in and day out, it becomes a lot easier to do. And again, I feel like the theme of the video is default. Like, how are you going to trigger your brain so that if you're feeling anything negative, you can default back to the good and the priorities and the important things in life? I think we've worked very hard at trying to define just the kind of family and the kind of people and relationship we want to have, and that eventually roots into everything, does it not? Resiliency quite literally is being able to stick through tough times and see it through to the end. I've also tried, and I'm still trying, to recognize that if I'm going through a longer, tougher season, or if I'm starting to feel burnt out or low on energy, it usually means I'm going through a period of learning. And just because I am very spiritual, this is the way that I think, and I know not everyone thinks this way, but I almost use that as recognition that I'm doing the right thing. If what I'm doing inches the needle towards my vision board and my values, and I'm also recognizing that this tough season is going to bring me value and it's going to teach me resiliency, then success has to come at the end of it. You may not know when that is, which is absolutely the toughest part, but that's faith at the end of the day. Having faith is knowing that there's something good on the other side of struggle and challenge, without knowing when it's going to happen, because we're not meant to. It's taken years of practice to be able to even vocalize this kind of mindset that I want to have on a daily basis. Hard seasons have also taught me and continue to teach me more about how I can improve my life and my functionality of life. Change is always happening around us. We are also changing, which requires a lot of reflection. So I use them to help complement one another. I use a tough season to recognize growth, opportunity, reflection in myself, and I also see it as resiliency and building callous and confidence internally as well. You have to count the little wins. You have to, because not every day is going to be a grand win. Like, I'm sure most of us have average or below average feeling days more than we do, feel like we wake up and we're on top of the world. I think that's just matter of fact, which is why consistency is so important. If you're giving 100% of whatever you have that day and you continue to do so long term, it is bound to bring you success. And I think something that also goes hand in hand with this is just being kind to yourself and celebrating your little wins too. We're so big on celebrating other people, being happy for others, being graceful towards others. If they're having a bad day, I'm sure you are the first person to be like, no, it's okay. I'm that person too. And I have a very hard time turning around and giving myself that same, praise. So I just think it's very important, as much as you give to others and give praise for little things, every time you actually stop and think about either this video or how you can improve and be better, or a mindset that you're trying to chase, every time you can divert to that, you should give yourself a pat on the back, because no one's perfect. Progress over perfection. And I will say that forever. We're always comparing ourselves to others, or what we do versus what we don't have, where we're trying to go versus where we currently are. And it's easy to let it knock you down. But one mantra that I have on my board, and one thing I will leave with you today, is do what you can with the opportunities you're presented with today. Whatever opportunities are thrown your way are meant to happen. Regardless of how they might turn out in the moment, they are for a longer purpose. Continue to show up, be mindful of how you're speaking to yourself, and continue to plug forward. At the end of the day, it is here, and it is here, and it is Him that is doing everything and controls everything. You cannot control outside circumstances, but if you can control internal thoughts and be kind to yourself, you will continue to propel forward. If you've reached the end of this video and you're like, great, super motivating, I don't know where to start, I'll help you. Grab a piece of paper or your notes app and just start writing down how you're feeling, what you want to do, literally everything that's just bogging down your mind. Get it out on paper so you can actually see it. From that point, you're going to take your values that you've also created and decide which ones actually inch the needle forward towards your goals. It's an easy way to diagnose your current decision making, evaluate maybe where you want to be in future, and start creating again those bite-sized pieces to accomplish those things. There's no mathematical answer. We're all trying to figure it out. And so while I wish I could sit here and tell you that I have the perfect answer or formula, I'm also going through it. These are just ideas that I have created through my own trial and error, and I would encourage you to do the same. If there's anyone out there that has other methodologies or other tactics and skills that I can use even, please share. I would love to read them in the comments. Otherwise, we're just going to continue learning together, and the more people I can bring along the way and share this with, the better, because hopefully we can help each other out. If you enjoyed this video, you're going to love this one. And if you have any interest in joining my community, don't forget to hit the subscribe button below.